we created a small reactor, which is controlled and fed through a dynamic beam. Then we have created a second reactor, which again the soul sits inside this, where we could feed this one through a hole here, and this one through holes here. And then we created the third core, where we could do the same and feed this one here. We could control the rotation of this one. We could control the rotation of this one, and we could control the rotation of this one. But in essence, in the center, there was one soul, what we call the soul of the creator. With it, in the interaction of this soul, this field and this field, we could create a condition of moving the soul of the system and the soul of the creation this way. Then when we interact with this one and this one, we move the soul of the physicality in conjunction with the center. And then at the same time, we still have the connection with the soul of the physicality and soul of the man, that we can take both with us. And when we land in a new environment, wherever it will be, we see instead of the circle system, most probably a man. These are not theories. You have seen the system has been in front of you since 2013, when it was shown for the first time in Italy. And it's always been in front of you. What you saw, the reactors next to each other, sits in our office in Austria on the shelf. The history of the space travel sits in front of you. But as you had no knowledge, you looked at if it creates a lift, if it does this. But in fact, we tune the heartbeat of every system to be able to be in a dimension of physicality, in a dimension of the soul of the man, or in a dimension of the galaxy, a universe, or whatever we need. Do you remember in all the teachings, many times, I wrote and I drew this, and I explained to you, if this is CO2, that is the oxygen. This is the carbon. And you can go the same way with other materials. But if you look, the pinpoint of whole thing is this. They all have this center in common. The interaction of the red and the black gives you the green. Now you see copper. The same thing, interaction with you between the yellow and the black will give you the white, for example. You see it. But it all depends which fields, but in center, they're all the same. If you reach to this point, you see all these elements as a new element, as one common denominator. And if you go within the center, you see the soul of the creator. Man has to go within himself to find himself, to find his creator. Not to look outside, where can I find the creator? In the galaxies and the universes, because the seed of the essence of his creation sits within us. I made man in the image of myself because I sit within the man. Every cell of the man carries my image. Not only the physicality of the man with 2 arms and 2 legs. I even sit within the soul of the man itself, as his soul is built on top and above my soul. We always said the soul of physicality has created the physical dimension to interrupt the soul of the man. But the same is true. The soul of the man has created that entrapment to keep the soul of the creator within it. One thief has become the thief of the other. One imprisoner has become the prisoner of the other. Then we understand the process of transmutation and transportation and every communication. Go within you, understand the strength of the communication with your creator, and he will respond, because he has access to creator, has the dimension to create whatever that the wish of the man has been. The more you wear, the less chances of getting to the body of the man. The less you're detached. The more you're detached and the less you wear, it's easier to reach the physicality, to give directly from the source. There are no armors to keep the man away from the soul of the creator, except the greed of the man in the dimension of physicality. It's the man who wears that armor, and not the creator hiding himself inside it. Try to understand the process of the heartbeat of every element, and in that heartbeat become the position that is the giver. Then when it collapses to become the taker from the dimension of the soul of the creator, you come close for it to exist. And there is a point of the turn. As you have seen, as you go to the maximum alkali, you become acidic. If you reach the point of devotion and detachment, you'll become part of the creator. As being a creator, you become the creator of. This is how we create our children. This is how we create the soul of our children. And then the whole thing has a new meaning. We give everything we have to create, and that creation becomes part of the essence of our creator. In so many ways, the knowledge of the creation, transmutation and transportation of every fields of the universe become understandable, and we can replicate it, because now we have access to what we call not the physical strength, but we have access to the field strength given to us by the ganses we have created. In a way, mankind has to learn how to use the field strength of the ganses, that their in interaction creates the heartbeat needed, that with it allows the man to transmute, transport, and everything else in the universe. Now you understand why for past months I keep on telling you, work with the fields, not with the ganses. Because with the interaction of the fields, you can create that heartbeat. With the interaction of the fields, you can create transmutation and transportation, conversion from one to another, position from one place to another. Now you understand why we tell you the new enhancements units are so advanced. Because the new enhancement units have taken all this into consideration. It creates with the condition of creation of the heartbeat of every cell within the body of the man, every element within the structure of the body of the man, or a combination of interaction of the fields which can interact with every cell of the man. But still it has a soul. It's your soul which allows that field to interact to overcome the cancer, to overcome the depression, because you are still within the structure of that spine of the fields of the creation, even though you are getting fed from outside by the system. You decide if you want to match, to receive. It's you decide if you don't want to match and not to receive and hold on to what you have. We create our own cancers. We create our own creation. Cancer within the body of the man is not an alien, it's the creation of us. Is the creation of interaction of fields of our emotion with the interaction of the fields of our physicality. You remember the difference in the book one between the weight and the mass? Cancer is the weight, and the emotion of the man is the mass. What we carry as a base in interaction with the fields of our body creates that condition of the weight of the element of what it to be. You call it cancer. Look within you, you find the answer to every disease in man, because it's the interaction of the fields of our emotion and physicality which leads to the creation of that problem. Be it the cutting of the neural system that creates your Alzheimer's, being engagement of the physicality to become everything else we want to be, from Parkinson to MS to ALS to every creation of cancer in the body of the man. We can change it. We can introduce dimensions and directions. We find a reason for it, we will create it. Many of you, I explained a few weeks ago, I suffered from hay fever for years, but I had no reason. Life was not there to be happy, to be living, and there was no reason to remedy. But now I have a reason. I love to live, to be able to teach and create and love the Mitra. When I got poisoned, as many of you know, my pancreas was damaged to this point of cancer. For the first time, as I was explaining to one of knowledge seekers, wanting to create, to get rid of all this for years, I set out the past few weeks to get rid of it because I want to be with Mitra. I want to show the love of the Creator. Now, with one move, I have no more side effect of the cancer within my body. Because if I could eat one berry, I could see the whole pancreas collapsing. Now, I tested myself. Last week, I ate a bowl of every kind of berries which could trigger my pancreas. No sign. We need a reason to live. We need a reason to accept the change. And then with that, with the strength of the emotion, we can bring that change. And the tools of it is given to you in every way through the production of the fields where you have been given the tools with what you have, you call ganses, which came from the matter of the creation on a lower level. In a way, with the knowledge of the plasma, we are elevating you to understand more and more the higher strength position from matter state to nano, from nano to GANs, and now to the fields, and in the coming time, to fields of the plasmas of the creation and the Creator. But the man needs to take patience. Man needs to understand. I made the first reactors, which you have seen, the first time 20 years ago. Because I knew I have to prove it in a scientific way. When I bought the first centrifuge to create the first condition of separation of the elements to be able to create plasma in 2002, 2003, the target was where we are today. We have all the knowledge, but it's hidden within. And we decide when to manifest it. Be it the knowledge of the creation, be it the knowledge of reaching the Creator, be it the knowledge of producing anything we want, or position where we want. Now you have knowledge. Now you've been given the possibility to be able to understand more. And from now on, it's depending on your own intelligence and your own understanding. Look within. Now you understand. And within you, you will find the Creator. In so many ways, now those of you who've been so busy with building the double core reactors, get busy with bringing 3, but understand the process. The limitation of the plasma, creation of the plasma is limitation of you to what you can convert, to where you can go, and how deep and closer you can reach the Creator is knowledge. Because once you move within, you become enlightened of the presence of the others, even the Creator. But don't look in the dimension of the physicality, but look in the dimension of what we call the soul of the man. Maybe the knowledge now has a new meaning. Maybe the knowledge now has a new understanding. Maybe mankind will be able to understand more of itself and himself. And maybe one day the knowledge seekers collectively will reach the total understanding of the creation, that collectively mankind will move to understand their own created and their own creation, and there will be no need for intermediaries as religion, because we learn the correct conduct, we learn the principle of the existence, and with it we set outside, or in a way we set ourselves not to sit outside, but to be part. Be it using a cup, be it using an air filter, being whatever we have chosen in the dimension of the light of the man. In so many ways, from the cup to so many ways to creation, we can choose. We are that cup, and we decide what's in it, what goes in it, and who we allow to drink from it. Be it our lover, be it our physicality, be it our soul. The physicality of the cup is irrelevant. The understanding of the interaction of the fields which is created within the cup is the essence of the creation. One cup, one life, that's all it means. The totality of existence lives within that cup. It's you who has to find the cup and find out what kind of fields are within this cup. That cup being the physicality of the man, and the water within it, the liquid within it, be the essence of the creation of the man itself. You create a cancer in a cup, or you create elevation and dimension of reaching the Creator. Now man has the opportunity and the ability to choose. And with the knowledge we give, we create that condition for man to choose. And now you understand why I always said, the heart of the man, not the physical heart, which is creator of the heartbeat, is the temple of the man. And man should never bow or bend to no structure, to no man, and to no created thing except the soul of himself. In how much that soul allows the physicality to understand more of the creation. The temple of the man is within the heart of his soul, not within the building and churches and the mosques, which man has made himself to become a prisoner of. Then he can be controlled. The messengers came to open the door for the teaching of today. And it's for man to understand he's the prophet of himself. And it's him who will profit by his own understanding. Now you understand why there is no more punishment. As it's you who decide to which level you go and how you punish yourself not to understand. And then there is no heaven and no hell, as it's you who decide how closer you want to get to that center or how far you want to be from it, because all is within you, an understanding of its totality. Thank you very much for today. And we go to a commercial break and we come back and we'll see how the greed of the man brings what question to understand more about the conduct and the life of the
man. Go ahead, Salamia.
Okay, hello everybody. Hello Rick. I have a question. How can the Keshe Foundation, using plasma science, could contribute to climate change cooperation between China, US, and the European Union by green diplomacy? Thank you for your kindness, and I hope that our Keshe Foundation will make a difference in the world on this subject too.
The Keshe Foundation is not the only organization, but we have the technology which we already captured the CO2, as many of you use it for your farming and the rest. It's just that how much is the CO2 an excuse for the global warming and how much is the reality in its totality. In any case, what you call a global warming is or creation of massive amount of CO2 because of the man's new way of living. Is all can be done. As we said, it will take time for it to be reversed. Millions of cars every day is on the road, and now we've seen a new gimmick with the green cars, electric cars, and in so many ways, the position of the CO2 now it gets worsened with electric cars than actually improving with the electric cars, as we knew what is coming and what is getting burned in the engine of the car and what comes out of the exhaust. Now, we're not letting you to burn the fuel. They can charge anything they like and burn anything they like. You have to understand, from our point of view, and being a nuclear physicist, being especially working within the field of the energy, we look at this, what you call global warming, creation of CO2, with what is called electric cars in a totally different way than you do. Being in the oil business for a long time, before I came into the world of science, opening knowledge, you have to understand what this electric cars and reduction in global warming, as they say, is how negative it is. If you look at it from another different point of view. As you know, we do not refine so much when it comes to burning the fuel for what we call ocean liners or the ships. We use the cheapest, the less processed, and in so many ways with the highest pollution. If you put all the cars together, the amount of pollution they create is nothing compared to what the ocean line is and what ships and transports your goods across this planet, because they use a lower fuel. With this new technology of what they call electric power cars, the power stations will go backwards in they'll be adopted to use the cheaper fuel which is used for ship liners, which means it costs much less than the fuel you're buying, less need for refining, and charging you more for. The push for electric cars and reduction in global warming is another gimmick for higher income for oil producers, because we don't need to refine, but we get much higher prices for it. Once they get you into all electric cars, you'll find out it'll be all go for everyone. What do you do? You can't afford paying. The oil producers will dictate their terms. So many ways, if you manage to reach a solar car that or energy system car, then you achieve helping with the global warming. But first of all, we have to find out, develop technologies which uses no charging. Then we are actually set up to create a condition that create less what we call CO2 and the gases that create a global warming. Everything you see with electric cars is set into that direction for a massive income for the oil producing nations, where they don't have to go to a high level of refining. They still can get you more or less raw material, except some bits out of it, and charge you huge for your electricity. Don't forget, most of you running electric car, charge your cars at night when it's ready for tomorrow. And unfortunately, we have no solar cells to run at night. Only can be powered by the power stations, burning of the fuel. There is a huge hypocrisy in the present electric car system. Unless we can introduce system that you use new advanced technologies which you do not need to burn fuel, and you work on the magnetic field positioning and creation of the power through a different process. Because now they can burn these fuels away from what we call your eye. You don't see what it gets burned. I remember when I used to be part of a different organization, I used to own a different structure years ago. We used to take whatever was not supposed to be in the hand of public to power stations to burn. About the somebody's microphone is open, and nobody knew what we burned. Don't forget, your money, which gets recycled or used to papers, now is coming plastic, used to be taken into power stations and burned. What had a lot of millions of values in the bag became part of the heating and creation of energy for you for a microsecond. We used to do the same. Most of the nations do this. When we used to receive fake alcohol, fake goods, they don't get buried. They're taken to power stations to burn, become part of the fuel energy. Now they will do the same with unrefined products, cheaper, and in a way they charge you more for. Not many of you charge your cars during the day that you can say you use the wind, or you can use the solar panels that they're putting around the world. There's a huge discrepancy in this. And the only solution is, once we go into what we call magnetic field systems, which creates lift and motion, then you work within the magnetic field of the planet and not within the structure of the materials of this planet. Then you can sort out the global warming. We're setting up to reach that point in setting up of the new factories, the new structures for space technology. We need to bring the space technology forward, that using the knowledge of space, mankind will move away from what we call burning of the fuels and what you call the global warming. Patience. we're getting there. Anybody who has introduced any alternative with water, with different things, has been taken out, eliminated by those who want to push to have more papers and more plastic and more power. And now the change, you will learn slowly, all of you, how to create these conditions. I think maximum, once we develop the space technology, overnight, within a handful of years, a man will walk away from fossil fuel, or burning of the fuel. Then we'll talk a different language, but again, would we be able to absorb or convert enough of the CO2 that we don't create new chaos and new problems with the lack of CO2? Because we know how life started when the conversion of elements came into operation by increasing CO2 or reduction in oxygen or whatever historians will tell us. Any other question?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. Let's see, we've got Andre. I'm not sure if you're able to speak yet. Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. We've got questions in the chat here that perhaps we can address. First one is from Viviana, who says, hi everyone, hello Mr. Keshe, and thank you for this beautiful teaching. I'm an Italian knowledge seeker. Ricardo has this question. What is the relationship between the individual energy of human beings and the events of the planet? And the second part, how can we interact to eliminate the evil that affects the evolution?
The answer to both of them is nothing to do with each other. And it's just a state of mind, both of them. Next question.
Okay. Marius asks, hello everyone. Mr. Keshe mentioned something very important about the heartbeat, importance of the heartbeat in order to create lift and motion. Is this like matching your heartbeat to the heartbeat of the place you want to reach in order to get there?
That's what the idea is.
And can this heartbeat be displayed in numbers like GPS coordinates?
I was waiting for that.
Or is it just a concept, something that we just feel, detect, and understand with our soul? Of course, everybody wants that magic gauge or device that'll point us in the right direction. But the thing is that their direction is inside, I believe, not outside. So that's where we get confused.
You and I are old enough to remember the word. It says, return to the sender. There is no such address. You remember the song?
Yeah, very much.
Very much so. The way to understand it or answer this question is very simple. Have you had a dream about your mother, your brother, somebody you know, or somebody you wanted to be, and you went there during your dream, or when you're awake and you wanted to be? If you have, in the past, let's say, not a day, not a week, in past 10 years, or past from the time of your birth, such a thing happened to you, did you ask for GPS position of your soul to be with the soul of that person or the place? What it means, in the world of creation, we don't have GPS. If you could manage to have the dream about your dog which died when you were 3 years old and you are 93 years old today, it means you still have a connection and you know where it is. The GPS of the soul of the man is in the structure of the will of the man, the emotion of the man, and the need of the man. So next time when you ask if you have a system for GPS, can you please give me the GPS where, in which dream you saw your mother who passed away 30 years ago? Did she leave a GPS address to meet her at that position that you had a dream of? Then we understand there is no GPS. It's the will of the man. Understanding the structure of the life of the man. Man has become too physical. GPS, you can have it in your car. Souls don't have a GPS. Know exactly where everything is. It's you who has to take it, wish it to connect that line, that position and the place.
This idea came up in the plasma reactor group yesterday, and we were talking about the idea of darkness and how we rely on our sight so much to get around as humans and to interact, and everything we do is relying on the light rays that are hitting our eyes to judge where we are. Mark gave the example, he went down in his own basement, which he's been in the house with that basement for 20 years. And he got to the bottom of the stairs and realized his flashlight didn't work and the light switch doesn't work from the upper part. So he went down into the basement to get to the other light switch, but it was pitch dark and he couldn't see anything. There was not even a hint of light. And then he got lost in his own basement because he got disorientated, and he thought he was in one part of the basement, and suddenly he felt the stove, and he thought he didn't even know what it was at first. And that was at the opposite end of the basement to where he thought he was. And we were talking about other examples of being in the dark, and sometimes we have to rely on our sensing, on our field sensing, or sensing of the fields more when we're in the dark. An example is someone who's blind, for example. They might feel someone's emotions that comes into the room more than other people that have their eyes on that person. So what is it? It seems like the less distractions we have, the more connected we can become with our sensing and with our soul connection, it seems.
Have you ever played the game that you blindfold yourself and you touch a person to say who they are, their face?
Right, yeah.
But
yeah.
The beauty of it is not that you feel the physical feature of the face, but by touching it, you feel the emotion of it too. So emotion doesn't need what you call sight to see. And we feel that emotion through the touch. But again, if you can feel the emotion through the touch, not through the eye, we see somebody crying, we see somebody laughing. But when you don't see and you touch the face, you feel they're laughing, you get their emotion of joy or whatever. How does our body recognizes that? Because it's touching the skin, it's touching the physicality. When you touch a stove, you don't feel if the stove is happy you're touching it or not. Or does the stove say, oh, thanks God you're here, I was in the dark, somebody's here that I can touch me. And this is what is the beauty of when you see through the soul. You see the real joy, not the physicality, and not the physical dimension. And your soul will take you to these positions and dimensions. Man will do this. It's like last time when I said last week with a whiteboard. That whiteboard exists because the fields interact that way for us to manifest itself. How would we see a whiteboard when we are blind? I think man has been too blind to existence of his soul. And we shall see if we can find a GPS machine for that man. This is what I said many times in teaching. You have to choose if you want to go on a foot, a donkey, a car, a jet plane, a spaceship, or the soul. And each one of them has its own work and GPS and connection how to go. And so, in this dimension of the soul, there is no GPS facilities at the moment, because if it was a GPS, you have to use the physicality to be able to tell the soul where it is. Put it this way, we haven't seen any GPS system yet in the universe for those who have elevated to travel with the dimension of the field of the universe. If you've got a car, you need a GPS, otherwise you get lost. And again, your emotion has to do with it. For years when I used to live in London, I did something psychologically. Every time I went across the Waterloo Bridge, or I went through the London Bridge, on the south side of the bank, I used to get lost. I didn't know where I am. It was just psychological. The road never changed. I've been there, I've been here before, but I didn't know where I go. It was a way, I don't want to be in the south of the river, because I always lived north of the river. And to me, to go to the south, it was something I didn't want to do. And the body of the my GPS was the Thames River. It just all got muddled up. And it was interesting for me how just one river changes the mindset, and what we want to accept, what we don't want to accept, but it's the same place, the same water.
So Marius has a second question, which I think you've sort of answered, but perhaps again, would be, how can we get our soul in tune to the heartbeat of a certain place? Or does it tune automatically when you just think of it?
It's automatic. You got to practice.
And it's more than just thinking, because you mentioned there's emotional content there somehow.
Yes, this is part of the teaching in a much in depth, which we'll start teaching in the coming months, where I explained in a way that the mothers don't need to give a physical birth. You can encourage, you can promote, you can create a condition that the soul of the child moves outside the physicality of the body of the mother. And the mother has to accept that condition. That is the safe way to come, safe way to be. And then in the time when the physical dimension is matured, the soul of the physicality will follow the soul of the man. And this needs maturing, this needs nourishing, this needs to be taught. It needs a lot of confidence. A lot of mothers will not be able to do this because they're afraid what happened, what do I do with this field in my hand? The only thing you do, you nourish it, you love it, you give to it, and you give it counsel that it's safe to be with me in this dimension. This is how births are given across the universe. We don't have delivery rooms in the universe. And we don't have hospitals. And we don't have a birth passage. And these are the things which we learn. The strength of the soul. We are able, needs confidence to be given confidence. We are able to carry that soul in the dimension of the fields and allow it the process. If the mother wants to give, it's like the one I said, you can walk, you can get a donkey, whatever. If a woman likes to give birth through the physicality of the man, it's still open there. But those who understand the process and have enough strength to trust to do the way we just taught today, to increase the level, the mother's soul of the mother becomes to the center and allows the soul of the child to move out of the womb. You will see a light. But the physical life still matures inside because he cannot live till it's ready. And this process of teaching will teach in the coming weeks and months, because we are in that process of creating the soul first, and then the physicality. And now because we have created soul, we can move the soul, and then physicality will follow. This is the way life is given in the universe. Mankind needs to learn. Otherwise, every woman gets pregnant on planet Zeus, we have to rush them back into Earth for them to give a delivery notes in delivery rooms in somewhere in one hospital in which city or which country, and then take them back again. This is part of what we said. You have to learn how to bring the energies within inside you to take charge over the outside, but trust that the both will exist together. And this giving birth through the structure of the soul will be taught us, and then you can choose the way nowadays you choose. You can give birth in the hospital, you can give birth in the house, you can give birth in the bath, you can give birth on top of the Himalayan mountains, whatever is your choice. But now man has a new dimension to be able to create the children of the soul, and then with the physicality. And because the soul is created first, then the mother, which is the supporter of that process, can allow it. It's like you take your child to a nursery, come, I'll take you to a playground. You took the physicality. Now we teach you how to take the soul. And when the soul is mature, and what we call the soul of physicality is mature in the dimension of physicality, that 9 months, 9 days, whatever it is, will become the prime of the process of delivery. And then you teach the soul of the child, and you find out you don't need a school. Because what you teach the child, the soul, in a way you give from the knowledge of the soul of yourself, educates and prepares the child for the whole of the universe, not sitting in the classroom adding 1 and 2. We are in that process. We are not going to be, we are already in that process. Now we're setting everything up for that process. Any other question?
Okay, we have a question from Dan. I'll try to get through here. It's he says, after years of watching and learning, I'm not able to answer this question. GANs that we
he's
create,
like us, so we can't answer the question.
GANs that we create from the field magnet. Example, carbon GANs is from the physical element carbon and the element nanocarbon. It is made of CO2.
What?
Yeah, I don't understand the question really. It is made of CO2 of nanocopper and zinc, but you can also make it from iron nano 53 and cobalt. What GANs are obtained from the fields created from one material and the nanomaterial of the same element, I guess is the basic question.
Can you repeat the question? You understood, but I didn't. So
I don't understand. I don't know what he means by iron nano 53 and cobalt making the same CO2 GANs or something like that. But if we go with the basic question of what GANs are obtained from the fields created between a material and the nanomaterial of the same element, is there a general answer to that, or is it specific to each?
We always get new materials from different interaction of 2 different fields. You get the CO2 from interaction of the copper, nano, and the zinc. But if you keep the same copper nano and put the copper, you get the release of the atomic structure of the matter of the copper. When you create interaction of 2 different materials, you usually end up with the plasmatic field of the what we call gases or other things which are not the physical dimension. When you use a nano material with the material of the same, you produce the GANs of that material, like the copper, you use the copper and non-nano copper. And this is how it works.
So
one creates the fields of the matter of the common denominator. One field produces the gases or the condition of the plasma, which does not exist in singularity in the structure of the material. You usually create the difference between the two.
So in the case he mentions of the iron nano 53 and cobalt, maybe that's, he's thinking that would be the same difference as the nano copper and the zinc. So
yes, we taught that from the beginning. You don't need to have a zinc and a copper.
So you'd be making the same material? Or would it be?
Yes, you can still make a CO2, but in the strength of the iron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If, for example, you make CO2 in the strength of the zinc in our system, or in the strength of the copper.
So the iron one might be counterindicated for some health aspects. Is that true, or would it be the same?
Can be, yes, but you have to know what you're doing, how you're using it, these things.
There could be side issues with venturing outside of the standard kind of.
Oh no, it's just we don't venture, we don't learn. What we don't venture, we don't gain. But you have to understand what you're going to do with it. We got to understand what we do with what we create and why we are creating it.
Mm-hmm. So Dan goes on to say, between sulfur and nanosulfur, what can we call that GANs? Would that be GANs of sulfur, or?
Depends what your sulfur is and what kind of gases you expect to produce. When I produced the first CO2, I researched for nearly 10 years to be able to produce CO2. But once you learn it, you can do it, then the rest becomes easy. You just follow, but you have to find ways around it. Because in the original systems, I could produce CO2, zinc oxide, CH3, CO2, and all the few other elements in the same box. And you could see the conversion of the material to CH3 or the strength of CH3. We learned a lot. There was a lot was learned in this process of change and conversion. Next question.
Okay, we've got a question from Achilles the in the Q&A, who says, I've been wondering for a long time that the drawings of splitting of the universe inside the third book of Mr. Keshe indicates that the position of the souls in the center of the plasma. But why in the physical world the soul of a leaf or a feather is at the tip of the leaf or the feather? Why the soul of a dog is at the tail end of the dog? Thank you.
I don't know, is it?
Really, maybe you'd have to ask the dog whether it's
the dog, where is your soul?
Tail. Does the tail wag the dog's soul, or does the soul wag the dog's tail? What about the soul of the leaf? Would that be at the center of the leaf, or at the edges, the tip of the leaf, or all of the leaf, or how does that work?
It is constructed in a different way with the verticals, and this position is dynamically positioned within the central, what do you call it? There's the central beam, the vein. What do you
The
call
vein.
it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any other question, or shall we call it a day? I think we thought too deep today and enlightened too many people.
Okay, yes, we can go on with questions forever. So we can always use that, leave that infinite number of questions till next time around.
Thank you very much for today. I hope you, no way together we learned something new, and hopefully new developments will come out of it. And as we said, we need to expand the knowledge, make it available to everyone as it can be done. And our new center opening up, we need volunteers to be able to, or not volunteers, even people who can run the structure. We're developing, and we need new people who can be part of to run these structures, or we look outside to bring in and carry on with the development. Thank you very much indeed.
Mr. Keshe, there is one thing perhaps we can address. I see Liliana has her hand up here, and she had a topic of the
put more and more products in.
Mr. Keshe, would these products be useful on a trip to space, let's say, for astronauts that went into physicality and were traveling for a couple of years in space to grow something to eat?
I'll give you a small insight. Our plan is to create a flight condition by 6th of June 2022. Our basic structure is that to create the interaction between the Chinese, Iranian, and American space agencies sometime in September, October. And as we have the technology fairly advanced, we will endeavor to create the first flights around about 6th of June of next year. If we can achieve it in cooperation with the government, it will be much better. We have a target for these dates that we're working on, and most probably by September we'll be in Washington, and we set the scene to start out a collaboration between the Iranian and American space scientists in Arizona, somewhere in the back end of, or early back end of this year. So we have a structure to see, and we already have made one of the floors of the research center in China, specifically for cooperation between Iranian scientists and the Chinese space technology. So we are endeavoring to bring more scientists into cooperation, and as part of our work, always Russians are with us. And so it's just how the group of the CBRU decide to siphon out what is achieved, what is done through collective work. And the Keshe Foundation of Iran, with the support of Islamic Society of Iran and Iranian space agencies, gradually will set these things up. Our team in Iran are setting up the programs, all the programs for the Keshe Foundation. You will see all the websites, flight patterns, and everything else is getting done in Tehran by the Iranian elite, what we call computer scientists. They're working. I was just talking to them before I come on air today. So a lot of things is getting done in the background, and we push to the next level because there's a lot of data needs to be collected. So nobody has such a data of working with a flight system with plasma. And our experts in Iran, the team in the Keshe Foundation headquarters in Tehran, are literally writing these programs as we speak. And you will see a lot of changes in all aspects of the technology. And as I said, we are doing all we can for me to return to Iran by the end of June. And immediately everything is prepared by the Iranian Keshe Foundation and people who support us within the Sabah of Iran and the what we call Iranian leadership. And then we push into collaboration in the space technology with the Chinese and the Americans. And there's going to be a lot of rough time. We expect it because they don't trust each other. And the trust comes with the knowledge which we as knowledge seekers put on the table. And we'll see where we go. We keep it very, as much as possible, transparent, that we do not antagonize any side of the work. You got to understand there is a huge mistrust between the nations and how and who will use the knowledge for becoming a superior. But as the superiority sits in the knowledge of a space, I think our world leaders will change their position and respect how to use these technologies in a, what we call, clandestine activities. So we're hoping that we have set a roadmap for 6th of June 2022 to create the first conditions for the flight into space in collaboration with Iranian space scientists, primarily the Americans and the Chinese and the Russians. And it'll be a collective. Failure does not mean we cannot do it. It means we have not understood the totality of it. But there is enough knowledge in the structure to achieve the first landing on the moon or Mars within minutes. And we are working in that direction. As I said to the Iranian team, I'm not coming to Iran to sit down and enjoy. I'm coming there to take man to space as rapid as possible. We expect to be in different countries, and there is nothing more, what I call bringing confidence in the relationship than an Iranian nuclear physicist in Washington, White House, which we see around September, October of this year, to gel the peace. And we'll see if what we set out will happen. And from there on, we move to Arizona with American scientists and hopefully Chinese to start the first phase of the Cebu operation of the space technology. Thank you very much for today. And we'll see what comes up and how we take things take shape with us. Thank you very much.
Excellent, Mr. Keshe. Thank you very much. I see that Canada is sending a rover, an unmanned rover, to the moon in a year or so as well. So that's an interesting development they just announced yesterday.
The Israelis tried and failed last year or 2 years ago. And the last minute hiccups doesn't mean that we get it right. We might decide to use a magnetic field landing on one side of the moon. We might land on the other side. We might create a condition that the system might land on the Mars. But in general, bringing the collaboration is the first objective of this exercise. The object of this process is to create not one nation to be superior, but all nations to be collaborating to bring that position. It has a lot of political implication. Then this is why a lot of governments have problem with this. If you can go from Earth to Moon in 1 hour or 4 hours or within a minute, then you can see how many people will travel across this planet. And government don't like this disability, what do you call it, this lack of control. A lot of things needs to be brought in, a lot of things has to be understood. And I'm sure the science and the knowledge will spread very rapid. And nobody, I mean, in so many ways, we can't thank so much the work of Yusuf and the Iranian team, who are day and night relentlessly working in the Keshe Foundation headquarters to make these things happening. It's not easy. Moving a nation to become advanced space technology is not easy, but the Iranian scientists are bred for it. They're ready for it. And we see it as a point of rapid development. And you will hear from us most probably by somewhere in July. Teachings will come through Tehran to Iran national television, where now we run the television in what you call it, in Europe, in conjunction with others and promoting technology through a peaceful nation. This is the objective of our work. And I'm sure we will have a beautiful results. But we have set a target. We hope we can meet this target 6th of June 2022 on Moon. Now depends how the governments work with each other and how we put our animosities aside. Thank you very much. And let's see what we can achieve. Thank you indeed.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much, Mr. Keshe, for yet another delivered workshop here today. This has been
Nadszedł czas zmiany, przejścia do prawdziwego działania wszechświata. I nadszedł czas, aby zrozumieć, że używamy stanu materii, by osiągnąć poziom zrozumienia duszy człowieka. Teraz rozumiesz, być może, dlaczego Kreator wysłał swoich posłańców w imię tego, co miałeś. To oni przynoszą uszy, aby można było ich użyć, gdy nadejdzie czas Mesjasza. Mogę nauczyć duszę i przesłanie. Nie by się przeciwstawiać, ale poprzez ich zrozumienie przez tych, którzy stali się Mesjaszami, aby dawać ze swoich dusz, aby ich elewować. Zadanie stało się łatwe. Szkoła jest tutaj i uczniowie są tutaj w oddaniu. Wtedy nie będzie żadnej walki między tym, co nazywają muzułmanami, a chrześcijanami. Baranek i lew będą jeść i spać w tym samym gnieździe. Chrześcijanie i muzułmanie będą spać i modlić się w meczecie, w tym samym kościele, w imię ich dusz, nie w imię religii, które są używane do tworzenia tak wielu konfliktów, dla korzyści tych, którzy byli hiperaktywnymi dziećmi. Nadszedł czas, czas zmian jest tutaj. I jak powiedziałem, moje życzenie jest moim rozkazem. Jeśli pragniesz ujrzeć pokój, droga pokoju jest wyłożona bardzo wyraźnie. To dusza świadomości zbiorowej. Poprzez dawanie stworzy tą pozycję zmiany. Nic innego. W duszy człowieka nie ma długopisu. Jestem pewien, że po wejściu do społeczności uniwersalnej nigdy nie zobaczysz niczego zapisanego, ale równowagę pól duszy egzystencji. Staraj się być na tyle pokornym, aby nie stać się aroganckim w mocy, którą zrozumiałeś i posiadłeś. Inaczej wpadniesz w tą samą ścieżkę kościoła i meczetu. To jest to, co obiecaliśmy i to właśnie dostarczyliśmy. Musimy zrozumieć działanie duszy. I musimy zrozumieć, że dusza człowieka jest gwiazdą w kosmosie wszechświata. Jeśli porównamy Duszę człowieka i tak wielu nas, 7 miliardów w jednym zbiorze, Ziemia jest jak galaktyka z tak wieloma gwiazdami. Kiedy patrzymy w głąb wszechświata, widzimy galaktyki z setkami milionów gwiazd. Podobnie jest z planetą Ziemią. Niesie 7 miliardów pięknych gwiazd, które są duszą człowieka. Niesie z sobą duszę tak wielu trylionów zwierząt, roślin i wszystkiego innego. Jeśli więc patrzą ci, którzy nie widzą fizyczności Ziemi i jej zawartości, co widzą? Widzą galaktykę z wielką ilością pięknych, świecących świateł. Każda według swojej siły. Każda zgodnie ze swoją pozycją. Niemowlę ma piękną duszę, podobnie jak staruszek. Dla tych niefizycznych, którzy nie widzą fizycznego wymiaru tej planety, ale widzą siłę pola, jesteśmy gromadami gwiazd. Ludzka rasa, każda pojedyncza dusza, nikt z daleka nie widzi. To jest dusza rybaka, to jest dusza kosmologa, to jest dusza prezydenta. Wszystkie świecą bez względu na fizyczność. To jest magia. Oto co nowa nauka musi przynieść człowiekowi. Kiedy patrzymy przez naszą duszę, widzimy tylko gwiazdy w innych duszach. I to jest przełom, to jest zrozumienie. Na tym właśnie polegają te wszystkie nauki. Dojście do dojrzałości następnego poziomu, aby zrozumieć daleki kosmos. Wszechświat jest ostrygą dla tych dusz, które służą. Wtedy człowiek jest gotowy do wejścia w kosmos. Wtedy człowiek jest gotowy, aby stać się częścią uniwersalnej społeczności, która została obiecana. Nigdy nie obiecywałem wam nieba. Zawsze obiecywałem wam elewację człowieka, aby przyłączył się do rodziny. A teraz macie klucz. To wy musicie otworzyć drzwi, aby zrozumieć, że mogę elewować duszę tych ludzi lub milionów innych dusz, że fizyczne życie na tej planecie zmieni się. Wtedy jestem godny bycia częścią społeczności uniwersalnej, by być, aby służyć, aby się rozwijać, by być tam, aby być częścią, że w cyklu życia wszechświata staje się w byciu częścią, staje się częścią totalności. Kiedy człowiek osiągnie ten punkt, pojawi się nowy wymiar w sile duszy człowieka, który jest poza wyobrażeniem zrozumienia życia fizycznego. To jest brama do otwarcia nowego życia w nowym wymiarze, co jest poza wyobrażeniem tego, co mogliście nazwać nowym początkiem, nowym cyklem, gdzie ten cykl niesie ze sobą źródło stworzenia życia we wszechświecie i unikosie. To jest elewacja duszy, aby służyć. Stała się kluczem. Nie tron życia fizycznego. Czas jest odpowiedni, nadszedł czas, aby człowiek przeszedł przez ten proces.